Welcome to day 9 of the Tottenham on Tour Christmas Advent Calendar. And we've got a very great show for you today. We've got some legendary players. And we're joined by someone who you could say is a tiny bit legendary, but maybe not. We're joined by Mr. Ian Meth. How are you doing today?
Hi,
Ian?
Ben. Hi. Yeah, we're good. We're good. And Merry Christmas to everybody. Or is it Happy Holidays? God, I hate that. But Merry Christmas and a prosperous new year and a league title and FA Cup double in the offing.
You've been on the Christmas sherry already.
Get relegated.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, what's been happening today? What is happening? What are we doing? And are we ready for some Christmassy stuff?
We are ready for some Christmassy stuff. As we said, this is the Tottenham Ho-Ho-Hotspur Advent Calendar, day 9. Looking forward to it. As I said earlier, I've just done the loneliest thing in the world. I have opened a Christmas cracker all by myself. So I have the hat. And what comes with a Christmas hat? A Christmas cracker joke. It's going to be a tradition that we're all going to tell one. Should we do the host first and the guest, or the guest and the host?
Let's do the guest first.
There you go. Go on in.
Okay, guys, all listening.
Yeah.
Why doesn't Santa Claus have any children?
Why?
Because he only comes once a year, and that's down a chimney.
Well, you have set the standards very, very high. I do love a Christmas cracker joke.
I think it's low, Brian. I think it's very, very low.
I told you a different version to that joke yesterday, which I won't be saying on here. But Ben, let's have yours.
Mine is slightly pathetic compared to that, but why was the turkey in the pop group?
I don't know.
Because he was the only one with the drumsticks.
I honestly, I love these.
Yeah.
Right, final one, and this is the worst one of the lot. But people in the comments afterwards, you'll be able to vote for your best. Did you hear what happened to the guy who stole an advent calendar?
No.
He got 25 days. Boom.
Yeah. Oh, I hope there's people with even worse ones than these.
Oh, mate,
We've
got 24 days of 24 Christmas cracker jokes to go through. Right. As people will know, it's the Advent Calendar Day 9. We are going to talk about 5 players. Now, these 5 players could be 5 legends. They could be 5 leg ends. But today, it's mainly on the legend side, and we're doing this chronologically. So we're going to have a little talk about these players and more about certain players. But we're starting day 9 with an iconic number 9 in Mr. Bobby Smith, who played way before me and Ben were even thoughts. Yeah. And as Ben has brought up, we have his 271 appearances, 176 goals. That is quite the record. Division 1 title, 2 FA Cups, 1... What was the 6? 2 Community Shields and 1
Cup Winners' Cup.
I mean, like you said, this player, he's high up in the goal scoring ranks for Tottenham Hotspur. Was a wonderful player, wasn't he?
Before my time, but the record, I mean, people will know the name. Any Spurs supporter will know the name and will know that was, legend. If ever there's an overused word in football, it's legend. Some very ordinary players get tagged with the name legend, but under no circumstances could this man be described as anything other than a Tottenham legend. I mean, look at that goal-scoring record, that goal-scoring ratio. And, of course, one of far too few people to have won a league title with Tottenham Hotspur.
FA Cups as well, European honours. Ben, do you remember anything about this great man, or heard? Not do you remember? Not do you remember? Because you're not a time traveller. But your grandparents.
Well, this is before my uncle's time, because my uncle would have been 2 at the time that Tottenham won the double. My dad would have been maybe was even younger. He'd only really have just been born. But this spurred third in the all-time goal scoring charts for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. This is a guy. This is a footballer that is really underappreciated. Really at Tottenham, we talk about the Hoddles, we talk about the Waddles, we talk about the Greavesies. Bobby Smith is he's not talked about enough. I mean, Ian said it himself. Look at that ratio. Look at that ratio of goals in a time when pitches were made of mud. There was no such thing as grass in football those days. It's just mud. And for that many goals, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the one thing I will say about this, you just mentioned it. When you talk about double acts, or we can talk Son and Kane. You can talk. You can go through it. Jan and Toby. You can carry on going through the archives of Spurs. As I said to Ian backstage, I heard from my dad and my grandpa. You can't mention this name without mentioning Terry Dyson, who was a midfielder. But these two were like a double act in himself. And the very first thing I started seeing with Spurs is my dad had it on VHS. My God, we're showing our ages now. Yeah. On VHS, Ian, you probably saw this video. They did a thing for Spurs 100 years. There's a massive video they did to celebrate. Yeah. They went through the whole story of the history. And you see them both scoring. I think they both scored in the FA Cup final against Chelsea. And one thing Bobby Smith, I think, was known for, two things, was a very good header of the ball. But this is one of the originals that had a bullet of a shot. Like he had a thunderbolt. And that's all I can really say about him. Anyone else got anything they want to add about Bobby Smith before we go on to the next one?
I've got one. You think let's people in the chat and you two as well, is if Bobby Smith was playing centre forward for Tottenham now, what would he be on as salary wise? 150, 200,000 a week?
Probably.
More than that.
Yeah. Somewhere in that. Well, I think Kane was on 220. I mean, he was up there with Harry Kane. I mean, he was as a centre forward, he was up there. I played in a football five-a-side AJY football tournament. I'd have been about 15, 16, so that would take you to 75, 76. It was at Redbridge. I lived in Southgate, so we're a lot of you will know it. The cab journey back across the North Circular Road, and we're all talking about football. And I just turned to the taxi driver and said, "You know where this is going, don't you? Do you like football?" Yeah. I used to play a bit. And so, who did you play for? And he didn't answer. He just started to talk about. I said, "You're Bobby Smith, aren't you?" He says, "Yeah." Bobby Smith would not have earned anywhere near £200,000 in his life, anywhere near that. An absolute legendary footballer, maybe 10 years after, 12 years after he retired and is driving a taxi for a living. That was football in those days. They packed up and they had to find another way of earning a living. They didn't make the kind of money now that even some mediocre players are going to retire as multi-millionaires.
They probably earn in a week nowadays what they probably earn in a career, in all honesty.
Yeah, that's what I said. I doubt Bobby Smith earned £200,000 in his life.
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you what, that's Bobby Smith taken care of. Now, the next person is a legend, and we're talking about Mr. Allan Gilchrist. Now, my dad Ian says two things. This is my dad has two heroes. This man and Dave Mackay, which will be discussed on another day. Allan Gilchrist, he always used to tell me, was the king of the ankle tap. Look at the smile on your face. From what he used to tell me, he was called the artist. And one of the greatest things, like I said, me and my dad, thankfully, we're very, very close now. He's a major part of my life and love him dearly. Obviously, I've had some issues, and it was we were estranged. But one of the greatest things I got to do is he had a Legends Night where Allan Gilchrist was one of the, and I knew the person who was putting on these Legend Nights, and I had it arranged that my dad got to spend half an hour, 45 minutes alone, just him and Allan Gilchrist in the room, and seeing my hero meet his hero is probably one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life. He was a superstar, wasn't he, Ian?
Absolutely. And you talk about partnerships, Brian, and well, when I first started going, it was Gilzean and Greaves. And that was an absolutely wonderful partnership, how they complemented one another. Both were very heavy drinkers. I think that's one thing. But, you know, again, it goes back. You look at, you know, we're going to talk about overseas. Well, we're certainly going to talk about one overseas player. But when you look at the team sheets and how very few British players there are, you know, playing in most teams. In those days, you know, a foreign player came from Scotland or Wales, and an overseas player came from Ireland. I mean, that's where your team. There was no players from France, or let alone certainly not, you know, Africa, where we've got. You know, we're worried now, and South Korea losing players in January that are going to tournaments in Africa and Asia. But Gilly was one of those players that, you know, the team that Bill Neckbritt built. You know, Gilly came from Dundee, Dave Mackay from Hearts, John White, I think, came from Dundee as well. You know, where they were you know, finding great players from Scottish clubs, sometimes not always big Scottish clubs, and bringing them to England and turning them into absolute megastars. But Gilly, you watch any, particularly for some of the younger ones, you know, the ball would come in, and what Gilly was, it was that famous flick on. You know, he would make a run to the near post. Well, the joke was this why he never had any hair, because, you know, everything was glancing off the top of his head, and he scored a lot of goals, but the you know, that ratio obviously is nothing like Bobby Smith's, but he was really an assister to the main goal scorer, you know, Jimmy Greaves, and then after Jimmy Greaves went Martin Chivers. Both of those, of course, were some of the most prolific goal scorers in the club's history, and all three were genuine legends.
I mean, go on, Ben. What have you been told or know about the legend that is Gilzean?
I mean, it's the title. He was the first person to be given the title, the King of White Hart Lane. Born as the King of White Hart Lane.
Yeah, that's it. The first Noel, isn't it? Gilzean.
That's true.
Yeah. He was number one.
Born as the King of White Hart Lane.
Oh my God! Hey, listen, we've got a backing singer here.
Yeah, we do. We're not going to be singing any songs though.
No.
But yeah, he was the first King of White Hart Lane, and that to have that title over someone like a Greaves or again Bobby Smith before him, to have that title shows how important of a footballer he was. We couldn't find his assists because we looked on the internet for his assists and we never got them, maybe because they weren't written down in that. But that is an incredible record. That is an incredible title, and it shows that how good of a footballer he was. And no league title, but an FA Cup, 2 League Cups, one UEFA, respectively. It's not bad. It's not bad.
I mean, remember when I started going in the late 60s and people said, oh, you know, this will be Gilly's last season. I think he looked a lot older than he actually was. But I remember, oh, this will be Gilly's last season. This seemed to go on for year after year. And that league, the League Cups must have been 71 and 73. The UEFA in 72. So he just seemed to go on and on and on. As I say, despite the fact that if anyone who's ever read The Glory Game knows he was a very, very big consumer of
I think there'll be a few of those, Ian. I think there'll be a few of those in this advent calendar.
I'm sure.
But you know what? We're going to move forward now, a little bit more present. The next guy, Clive Allen. Now, with Clive Allen, didn't have him for too long, but that goal record, people have got to understand. What was it, Ian? 47 or 49 goals?
49 in the 86-87 season.
I mean, how lethal a predator
49, yeah.
That was, do you know what, that season was the first season I started watching football, so it weren't that I knew what I know now and everything.
No, sure.
But how clinical, I mean, obviously 49 goals in one season shows, but I mean, he was the original fox in the box, no?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're asking me, because I know some of these players are a bit before your time, but David Pleat put a really super team together. And that team was built around, I'm trying to remember now who was in it, but of course, Chrissy Waddle, who we're going to talk about as well, I think, was playing wide right, and you had Hoddle, and really it was a 4-5-1 with Clive Allen, just, you're right, the fox in the box. And then, because David Pleat always played lovely attacking football, and the team was absolutely geared, totally geared up for creating chances for Clive Allen. I mean, he missed a lot. I mean, people remember he got criticised for the number he missed. Do you think, how can anyone, you look back and go, how can anyone score 49 goals in a season? And people criticise you. But the whole team was geared to creating chances for Clive Allen. And the free-flowing football was lovely. The only, I think, the big regret was that we, having played got to the cup final in '87 and played against Coventry City. I mean, I remember a conversation. We beat Watford in the '87 semi at Villa. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, and the other semi-final was between Leeds, who I think were in the second division, and Coventry, who were a low-ranking first division team. Thought, well, whoever we get in the final, we will win the final, and it wasn't to be. Things transpired against us and what have you, and we ended up losing that final. Mabsy's, I think it would probably get credited as credited as an own goal. So unlucky for such a great player. But and of course Clive Allen comes from a long line of
dynasty
Allen players. Les Allen, of course, we talked about, who would have played with Bobby Smith, might have played with Gilly as well, I'm not sure, but he certainly played with Bobby Smith, and his cousin Paul, who played for us as well. And
Do you know what? But Ian, I want to ask you. I don't know if Ben knows well. Again, this is just as I started. Ben, I don't even think you were alive. Mate. No, you weren't alive when Clive Allen was playing. But with Clive Allen, when you hear 49 goals, was this 49 goals? He was a predator across the entire season, or was this 4 or 5 goals in one game, dry spell?
No, he just scored regularly every game. I think you'd have to look through that season. But as I say, the team had 5 across the middle of Hoddle. Well, I'm trying to remember who else was. Ozzy still playing then? I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it was all geared. The whole system was geared towards getting the ball in the box for Clive Allen. You think, well, that's easy enough to defend. You put 2 centre halves on him, and don't give him room. But of course, he moved very well. The ball was coming in from all angles, and of course, there was goals scored by others as well. And it was a very, very attacking style of play. You think, 4-5-1, that doesn't sound very attacking to me. Well, believe me, it was. I mean, it really was.
He was outstanding. I mean, again, Ben, it's with these ones, it's a lot before your time. Do you remember or seen anything of Clive? Obviously, he's at the club now as an ambassador.
Yeah, you hear him speak and you hear the stories, but again, it's the family legacy, isn't it? It's how many people named Allen played for Tottenham, and they have a short. They are what it means to play for Tottenham, as someone that is a younger fan says. When he says, this is what it meant for me, my family, and I to play for Tottenham, and we should all be following that. And it sort of sets the tone for the current team. They should be listening to this guy and say, like, my family built this football club, and you've got what we've built. You need to show pride for this shirt.
Absolutely.
And that's what we got for legacy. Legacy is a massive thing, and they've shown that they have a really good legacy.
Oh, they do, because there was his cousin Paul as well. But you know what? The next one, Ian alluded to it. This is a player, Chrissy Waddle, who honestly, one of my biggest annoying things that really got to me with Tottenham Hotspur was when we sold him, when we brought Gary Lineker in. Because if we had him, Waddle and Gaza, that would have been unstoppable. And Chris Waddle, I remember, just like Gareth Bale had in his last season at Tottenham, Chris Waddle. It was the first video I got when they did the goals of the season review. Chris Waddle was not only a great goal scorer, he was a scorer of great goals. And my God, Ian, all I would say, this is one of the guys that I would associate with when he is on his game and he showed it across to other teams. If Chris Waddle was on his game, he is simply unplayable, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. It's easy to sort of romanticize. Chris Waddle really struggled when he first came to Tottenham, and I think people, particularly some of the younger people, that maybe didn't see him play very often. I mean, he desperately struggled to really show the form. Did we get him from Sheffield Wednesday? I'm trying to remember where he came
He went from Newcastle.
He did come from Newcastle. He may have gone on to Sheffield Wednesday.
After Marseille.
Yeah,
Wednesday.
like Gaza was to do as well, and it was. There were times when he looked unplayable, and I remember my dad got to know Peter Shreve, not well, but got to know Peter Shreve, and I met him a couple of times, and was an absolutely lovely man. But I remember him having a conversation with Shreve and saying, it's a real a pity, that Chris Waddle hasn't really delivered, and he says he's going to turn it on one day and you're going to want to be here. And I remember my dad saying, what use is that? He's going to turn it on one day. But of course, the worst of it is that just as he was really starting to show the kind of form he was capable of, we sold him. And you cannot blame Daniel Levy for that, Brian. However hard you try, I'm not going to let you away with that.
No, I'm trying. This season, these seasonal offerings, I'm trying to stay as far away from that.
Yeah, quite right. Absolutely quite right. But I mean, there were times when he played, and when he was on form. He was an absolute pleasure. And you talk about that 87 Cup final. Of course, it was his cross to Clive Allen for the first goal in I don't know what it was, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. You think, this is going to be a party. Yeah, right. Famous last words. But one other memory, and it's just the only reason I'm saying this is because how the game has changed. About Chrissy Waddle turning on. We were playing, I think it was Oxford United. It may have been in a League Cup or an FA Cup tie, January, February, would have been, 85 or 6. And he got the ball and he ran past about 4 players and scored the most incredible goal. And there was a player in the corner of the penalty area standing in an offside position, and the flag went up and it was disallowed.
Oh man!
And that's often how it
VAR
was.
VAR.
It wasn't a matter of VAR. It was a matter of that's how offside was interpreted. If you were standing in an offside position, you got penalised. Despite the fact, I was a qualified referee by then. Despite the fact that the law even said then that a player isn't offside just because he's in an offside position. He's only offside if he's interfering with play or an opponent. But there was still that small C conservative linesman, as they were called then. But players standing offside, I'm just going to stick my flag up. Now, that wouldn't happen now, and that would have been an absolute wonder goal. One of those ones, hopefully, you'd find it on YouTube and everyone would say, wow, what a player. What a player.
There you go. I mean, Ben, I will say, we've spoken a lot about double X, but Waddle and Hoddle.
Yeah.
In the music area, Diamond Lights, if people...
Diamond Lights tune.
But Chris Waddle, you must have seen some videos and some of the goals. Go look at his goal against Southampton on the pitch.
Yeah, I saw a documentary about him when he was at Marseille, and the people of Marseille don't laud anyone as a top footballer, but he's an absolute god over there. He still goes there, you still see there, and that's a testament to how good a footballer Chris was. He was an absolute megastar, and if only we could have kept him longer. Yeah, you can't blame certain folk, but what a footballer! What a footballer! I mean, anyone that can play with Hoddle and be awesome with Hoddle, it's got to be a player.
Oh, without a doubt. Now we're coming to the final person, and this person's career was too short at Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah,
this guy Dimitar Batov. Now let's. I can tell you a story about Dimitar, but what I will say is probably one of the most silkiest players I've ever seen live in person. Like this guy, when we signed him, I didn't have a clue who he was. Not a clue. Obviously, his first season he was fantastic. By the time the second season came around, I was living in Israel, and we're sitting. I can't remember what the Europa League was called back then. Was it?
Yeah.
Was it the Europa League back then? Was it UEFA Cup? Whatever it was, we were in this tournament. I think it was Braga we were playing. We're playing Braga, and I'm at the pub I was drinking at the time, called the Underground in Alat. Who walks in? Ronnie Rosenthal. Ronnie Rosenthal comes and sits with us. First thing Ronnie Rosenthal says is, "Can I sit with you?" And I'm like, no. Can with you, like the Spurs fans. Puts his credit card behind the bar and says, "All night until I go, these people don't pay for a drink."
You should have saved that story for the Ronnie Rosenthal episode.
I can tell it both. You see, we'll see how many people are watching. This is day 9, so expect it maybe one day very soon. But yeah, we got absolutely right. But he actually is the one that recommended Dimitar Batov to Tottenham Hotspur. We sat down and listen. He does a bit of work here and there for the Liverpool Tottenham. Not he's not an actual employee, but he gave a little tip, shall we say, about Berbatov. Now, he reminded me a lot of Ginola. How he looked so lazy at one moment. Bang. This guy was one of the, and Ben, I'm going to come to you first because this will be your era and someone you can talk about a lot. This guy, I was devastated when this man left. He was a genius.
Yeah. I think possibly he was the first world-class footballer I ever saw. I mean, world-class is bandied about a lot, but the things that man could do with a football, I mean, the goal against, I believe it was Wigan, when he gracefully puts it over there, absolutely glorious. The coolness of the penalty in the Carling Cup final in 2008 when we beat the Chelsea. I mean, when he played for Fulham, the sheer audacity when he was playing for Fulham, when someone hoofed the ball out,
that first touch.
All he did was he stuck his foot out and it landed directly on its foot and it was dead. It was dead as a dodo. There is no man that had more control of a football than him. When he was at Man United and he was at West Ham and he flicked it around the player on the line. He was an absolute monster of a footballer. We were lucky to have him for 2 years, and we were still devastated.
I don't know if you and Ian were there. I don't know if you or Ian were there, but I went to Ledley King's testimonial.
Yeah, I was there.
And he was there, and he was retired. He was head and shoulders above everyone, weren't he, Ben?
Yeah, he was. It was watching Dimitar Batov play. That was some of the. Him and Robbie Keane, we're going back to partnerships. They were absolutely devastating together. The perfect double act of little and tall. One worked a lot. One was able to control the spaces. This is a mega star of a footballer. Absolutely brilliant. And he was treated really poorly in his subsequent move to Man United when he was playing with Ronaldo, Rooney, and Tevez, but. This was a footballer that deserved to be one of the best footballers in the world, and he was underrated by many. Very underrated.
It was very, very hard for me not to say something there, but I'm not going to do it when it said treating him poorly. But Ian, what are your memories of?
By the time it's interesting because obviously there's players that I saw a lot of which you hadn't, and I was there. But by this time I was in Scotland. I had a young family and a refereeing career, so I didn't see him that often, other than on television. But the one thing I would say is this: probably he was the first, wasn't he? The first big player, big transfer fee where we were forced to sell a player who suddenly wanted to go somewhere bigger. And what a real shame some of the players that we've lost and had to lose, where we've not been able to go on when you think, well, we might be able to go on win some trophies. And that's the real shame of Berbatov. With you obviously look at others like Bale and Modric and Carrick as well going to Manchester United. Another good player, where we've not been able to just keep the players and go on and to another level. Here's hoping that that future, with the stadium and everything, is now behind us, and we can keep and reward the best players.
So, do you know what I think we'll do at the end of every show is, if you could have one of these players in their prime right now in the Spurs squad. Now, obviously, we're talking about a lot of centre forwards here. Pretty much all of them, centre forwards or a slight winger. Ian, we'll go to you first. Bobby Smith, Allan Gilchrist, Clive Allen, Chris Waddle, Dimitar Batov. Who would you have right now in their pomp?
I'll go it for a reason, because any of them could play in any team, any era, because they were all fantastic players. I'm going to go with Clive Allen, and I just think because Clive Allen, given what the squad needs at the moment, and given that fox in the box and the way that Ange Ball is designed to create chances with ball going low and angles into the penalty area, I think he would be in his pop that 86-87 season. I think he would be scoring an awful lot of 30 plus goals in an Ange team. So that's where you could accommodate any of them, but Clive Allen is the one I'll go for.
There you go. Ben, who would you go for?
I'm going to be very, very biased and say Dimitar Batov, because him in the team gave me probably the best football moment I've ever. It is the best football moment I've ever witnessed in winning a trophy in 2008, and just the sheer class of a man. Imagine him with Son Heung-min up front. I think that would be like ridiculous. Like the one that goes in behind, the one that gets the ball and glides around and does nothing. But when that moment happens, whip.
So we've got.
What about you, Brian?
So we've got Berbatov, we've got Allen. I'm torn between two, and it's neither of the two that you've mentioned, but I'm going for my dad's hero. I'm going for the original King of White Hart Lane. You've all gone because of the goals that they will provide.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the one thing we're struggling with at the moment is assists. Yeah. If you had Allan Gilchrist, who, correct me if I'm wrong, Alan. Ian, I'm talking about Allan Gilchrist. Ian, Gilchrist played on the left, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. We'd have Johnson or Decky there, Allan Gilchrist on the left, firing into Heung-min Son, and also it would give us a hell of a bit of steel. One thing Allan Gilchrist did, he liked the little tackle, king of the ankle tap, as my dad said. So there we go. That is the Day 9 Advent Calendar done. Ian, thank you very, very much.
Pleasure. And to you and to Ben.
Where can people find you?
Yeah.
Ian, where can people find you?
Yeah, often on your show and Ben's show these days. But no, get me on Twitter, get me at Shaggy1712. And when I get a chance to do shows, when I'm asked, I'm always there.
Fantastic. Ben, where can people find you?
I'm going to do it to Johnny, and I'm going to say it there. You can find me the world famous home of Levy Out, the coffee company, Everyday Chill Streams. We'll be doing some great stuff over Christmas. As we all know, we got a Christmas coffee on, which you should all buy and you should all drink. But yeah, go over to the coffee company. It's our, what we could say is our mental health channel almost. As part of Top Sports, where we all go just to chill out. So yeah, get us over to there and we'll have fun.
Exactly. And all I can say is thank you. Don't forget to put your comments in, whether it be about the Christmas cracker jokes. And I think Ian's was the best one. I think Ian.
Who would you pick out of these 5 players in your team?
Exactly. And what did you think of the players? And all I will say is join us tomorrow for another day on the Advent Calendar. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And do I do it? No, it's an Advent Calendar.
This is Christmas.
It's Christmas.
Yeah.
Peace. Bye.